You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Good morning. This is Ashley Winch in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for Friday, December 30th, episode 3594 by WERM Flooring. Good morning, Horse World. Last week was such a blast revisiting some of our hosts' favorite interviews, so we decided to keep the party going. That's right, it's part 2 of our favorite interviews, and trust me, you're in for a treat. First up, we're going to chat with author MJ Evans about a fascinating slice of history. She's going to tell us all about the Sand Pounders, the U.S. Coast Guard's mounted beach patrol during World War II. Then we'll get musical with longtime listener and super talented auditor Andrea Dayy, who's going to share her songwriting journey and her latest song. To top it all off, the one and only Devin Conley of Devin Out West fame is joining us for some laughs. You definitely don't want to miss the hilarious stories and witty observations. So grab your headphones, get comfy, and let's dive right in after a word from our title sponsor, WERM Flooring. WERM Flooring now does your trailer roof. Leaky roofs are a common problem in horse trailers and RVs. WERM Flooring's revolutionary silicone-based coating creates a barrier against the heat and wet. First, it seals your roof to stop leaks before they start. Then it reflects back nearly 90% of those nasty UV rays, keeping your trailer or barn up to 60 degrees cooler on a blistering day. So ditch the duct tape and the buckets, invest in long-lasting peace of mind with Seal and Chill. It's applied by pros for a flawless finish and is only $7.50 per square foot. That's a steal for cooler, drier, happier trailer or RV, which also means happier horses and people. Head on over to wormflooring.com, that's WERM flooring.com to find a dealer near you. Now, let's get on with the show.
Well, our guest today is an author, and she has written 23 books, with the 24th book being released on September 17th. Obviously, she doesn't have anything to do. She writes books for teens and adults, with a few picture books thrown in for fun. But what I liked, and the reason I wanted to have her on, her name is MJ Evans, and I wanted to have her on because a lot of her books are written on, they're kind of historical fiction novels, but she does a lot of research around the history that she writes her novels around, and it's not stuff that you normally hear about. So MJ, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Fun to be with you.
So I do look for something different when we have authors on, and when you wrote to me and talked about this historical fiction, where did the idea of researching actual historical stuff that's not real well known and then writing a novel around it, where did that come from?
Well, I have several readers who will send me book ideas, and many of them are related to little-known historical events. So I will start researching and see if I get inspired to write a story about it, such as the Sand Pounder, which is about the horses who were used by the U.S. Coast Guard during World War II. Nobody's even heard of the Sand Pounder.
I'd never heard of that, and I'm a history buff.
I know it. Even people who are in the Coast Guard haven't heard of them. But for 2 years during World War II, the U.S. Coast Guard had a mounted beach patrol. Someone sent me an old photograph of a Sand Pounder galloping along the beach with a rifle attached to his back, and I was really interested in that. And so I started researching the Sand Pounders, and I was able to track down and receive a copy of the report, the confidential report that had been filed after the war and then was kept confidential for 50 years. And I was able to get a copy of that now that it had been released and read all about what they did on the East Coast, West Coast, and in Texas. So this particular idea, and many of my historical fiction books come from my readers who send me ideas.
That's a fascinating thing. So that was obviously well before cell phones. So I assume they were to ride somewhere and call somebody and give an alert when they would see a Japanese sub off the coast.
That's exactly right. The Coast Guard's job was not to engage the enemy, and on the West Coast, it would be Japanese submarines, and on the East Coast, it would be Nazi submarines that they would be watching out for. And in fact, there was a reason to do this. Oregon, and that's where I set the book, the Oregon coast was the only place in the continental U.S. that was actually shelled by a Japanese submarine. And on the East Coast, they had Nazi spies swim ashore on both Long Island and in Florida. Huh. So there was a reason to decide they needed to start protecting our shores as well. So they started the sand pounders, but they were not supposed to engage the enemy. They had kind of like walkie-talkie radios that they would notify the Army if there was a threat to the shores.
Yeah, one guy with a rifle and a whole squad or a submarine coming in, I think I wouldn't be engaging either, I think.
That's right. And it was not their job to engage. Their job was to be on the lookout.
And were these military people, or were they average people that just they...
Well, initially, the Coast Guard put out a call to people who would like to be sand pounders, and jockeys and horse show jumpers and cowboys and horse trainers from all over the country signed up to become a sand pounder. Now, some of these sand pounders were already in the Coast Guard or in a division of the Army, but most of them were just horsemen from around the country who answered the call to serve their country by protecting the shores. And they had, the Coast Guard initially wanted people to bring their own horses. That didn't work out very well. Very few people were willing to bring their own horse. And now in my story, my fictional account, I have a young woman who wants to be a sand pounder, but they're only taking men. And in my story, she does show up disguised as a man with her own horse. But very few people came with their own horses. They used the Army's horses. The Army was still breeding horses at that time. And so they used the Army horses.
That's fascinating. And of course, this book, if you want to read it, it's called The Sand Pounder. What other historical things have you covered in your books?
Well, that's a World War II time period, obviously, set in the U.S., and I set it on the West Coast in Oregon. I also did another World War II story, which is set in Czechoslovakia, and it's about the famous Arabian stallion Vitez II, and many of your listeners that are into Arabians would know that name. Vitez II was a Polish Arabian who was stolen by the Nazis out of Poland at the beginning of the war. Whenever the Nazis would conquer an area or a country, they would steal their very finest horses and put them in their breeding program, because Hitler had ordered his generals to breed the perfect war horse, a horse that would mature quickly, was strong, had big bone, could do the work of war. And they were going through, at that time, being very dependent on horses still at the beginning of the war. They were going through 6,000 horses a month. And so they needed to get this breeding program up and going quickly. Well, they would steal the best horses. Well, you've probably heard that the Lipizan mares and stallions were stolen. Yeah, they were taken down to a little village in hostile Czechoslovakia, which is also where these beautiful Arabians were taken. And so I focused my story on one particular horse named Vitez II, and he was there in hostile when the ending days of the wars were upon them, the Russian army was moving in toward Czechoslovakia from the east, and the Americans were moving across Bavaria from the west toward Czechoslovakia. But the German officers in Hostau, who were breeding the horses at this stud, they weren't Nazis, they were horsemen, and their concern was for the safety of their horses. And they knew if the Russians got there first, they would eat their horses. So they snuck over the border and found the Americans and begged them to come rescue the horses. And that was called Operation Cowboy. Well, I took Vitez's experience through all of that and getting shipped to the U.S. He was one of the horses that was brought to the U.S. and became a dominant breeding stallion for the U.S. Arabian Association. But I combined all the life of Vitez with a fictional character. Remember, this is historical fiction. So I take a true event and then put in a fictional element. And in this case, the element is a boy in the village who becomes his groom and then travels with him for the rest of his life. But the boy, named Theodore, is autistic at a time when no one knew anything about autism. But I have seen how healing horses are to people with autism. And so I included that in the story. And then another historical fiction that I had fun writing is the story of Pinto. The longest horseback ride in history is still held by a horse named Pinto. He was a Morab. And from 1912 to 1915, 4 men from Washington State rode to every state capital in the Union seeking fame and fortune, expecting fame and fortune, when they ended up at the San Francisco World's Fair in 1915, having made it. They went to every one of the 48 state capitals. However, no one cared. But they
that sounds about right.
I know it's about right.
Yeah.
Because remember, timing is everything.
Yeah.
And World War I is starting, and the cars coming out at that time. I mean, nobody cared about these men riding around the country, but they and it was before they had GoPros and YouTube channels and all that. So they did not become rich and famous, but they wore out 17 horses on this journey, but one horse made it the whole way, and that's Pinto. So I went up to Bainbridge Island, Washington, where there's a little museum, and I read all the journals that 2 of the men kept and all of the newspaper articles that were available, and then wrote the story from Pinto's point of view. So thus, and rather than just making a nonfiction travelogue, it became a nonfiction historical fiction, It became a historical fiction because Pinto tells the story of this journey. That's cool. Another story. I know cool. That's really fun.
I love this premise. I love how you're doing this, and people can find the books where can they find all of them?
Well, all of them, they're all available for sale on Barnes & Noble and Amazon, the usual book places. But autograph copies are available through my website, as well as a synopsis of each title. And the website is www.dancinghorsepress.com. And I love to sign the books and mail them directly to the readers.
All right, very good. It's dancinghorsepress.com. MJ, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is fascinating. I love history, so the way you're writing these books, now I have to get them. So I'm going to put these on my Christmas list.
Confidently address your horse's unique weight needs and help optimize their overall well-being with research-proven Purina animal nutrition feeds. Designed by passionate equine nutritionists, partner with Purina to nourish your horse to their optimal body condition. Explore weight management resources for your horse today at purinamills.com/feed-finder.
All right, let's meet one of our auditors. Her name is Andrea Dayy. She's been a listener, she says, for 9 years, and I think we've communicated with her in the past too. And she apparently wrote her first song. So I said, yeah, let's come on and talk to you about it. So let's get Andrea on. I'm going to find out why somebody decides they need to write a song. Where's that come from?
It's just funny because I'm experiencing this in life right now, so I'll tell you about mine later.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Andrea. How are you? You're on the air with us.
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good.
What's up, girl?
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Where are you located, Andrea?
I'm in Rochester, Vermont.
Okay, Vermont. All right, good. And you said you've been listening, and I know you have because we've communicated in the past. You've been listening for a long time, right?
I think about 9 years now, yeah.
I know you became an auditor when we first started getting auditors.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your support and helping pay the bills all these years, too. We appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So
you guys
what's-
are great to listen to.
Do you have a musical background? What makes somebody decide they're just going to write a song?
Well, that's a great question. So I did grow up with a musical family. My mom and my dad were in a band for I don't know how many years in my life, but then just over the last couple of years, I started to get into songwriting, and I was just driving down the road one day here in Vermont, and I got inspired by like the clouds that were like low, but right, like, you know, where the peaks are, you know, showing through, but like the clouds are below. And that's how I got inspired, and I just started writing it.
And you're singing it too, right? I assume.
Oh, yeah, that's me. And my mom is actually singing harmony.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that part. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're a horse girl too, right?
Yes. So I grew up riding horses with my mom. I think when I was 7, we had a mule. We had a retired police horse from Washington, D.C., and unfortunately, my horse, when we got him, the retired police horse, he was 34 when we had to put him down.
Oh, that's old though.
Yeah, I know. And so I kind of got out of it for, you know, I don't know, like 8 years. I went to college and everything. And then I moved here to Vermont. I was going to yoga one night, and this one girl says, "Hey, does anybody here ride horses? I've got 2 horses, and I need somebody to ride with." And I was like, "Well, I do."
You were like, me.
Yeah, I was like, pick me. And so I actually now own her second horse, and I've had him for almost 8 years now. So,
Wow.
yeah. His name is Chester.
Well, you have some great trail riding in your neck of the woods, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really great trail riding. It was actually just, I took him to my first Western dressage show like 2 weeks ago. So that was a big deal. I'm super excited about that.
Well, I want to play the song. This will be the first time. Jamie, you have not heard it, correct?
I have not heard it, no.
All right. So what I told Andrea after I heard the song is I pictured, and you're going to picture this now that when you listen to it, I pictured Clint Eastwood in his old Western days riding toward the mountain with the bad guys lining the ridge with rifles. And the last scene is one of them taking aim at him, and it fades to black. Now, let's see if you picture that too. What's it called?
Whispers of the Mountain.
Here we go. Whispers of the Mountain.
The whispers of the mountains, the whispers high and low, they call me from the mountains, they call me, so I go. I run towards the mountains, I run with fear in chills me to the bone. And the whispers of the mountains, they call me by my name. They call me, they call me, they call me, so I go. They call me, they call me, they call me, so I go. Running towards the mountains, I'm feeling safe and sound. But time and time again, I should have turned Sing my life right in front of me, stares me in the face and laughs back at me. Climbing to the top, I'm hoping for reprieve, reprieve from my life that's taken over me. And the whispers of the mountains have finally set me free.
That is, Glenn, that was very brave of you to be like, I had somebody send me a song, I'm going to play it on the air. Like, what could possibly go wrong? And then, Andrea, for you to send it in and be that brave, that's awesome. That song was so good. I love me a song in minor keys. Like, woo, I love it.
Oh, thanks.
It was
Who's
terrific.
your-
I was like, well, if he doesn't like it, he won't play it, whatever. No big deal.
Who is who did the electric guitar solo?
So actually, we flew down to Music Row, and we flew down to Nashville, and we recorded it on Music Row
Really?
at the 515 studio.
How
Yep.
cool is that?
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you like
well,
strutting around Nashville being like, yeah, I'm here to record my song with,
oh my God, 100%. I didn't know that this was on my bucket list of things to do in my life, but yeah, I can definitely say that now. So, but that's actually the first song. This is the first song I've ever written too.
Wow, that's incredible. Way to go.
Your voice is so
thanks,
good.
thanks.
Your voice is great.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. It's a big deal because for a long time, I never sang in front of people. I was so self-conscious about it. And then, you get to a certain point of your age and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
Heck yeah,
I'm
man.
not worried about it.
Way to go. That is, that's terrifying to go into that. You're in a studio with session musicians, I guess. And these are supposed to play along with you. And you're like, oh, I can't imagine the pressure. I can't breathe.
Oh, yeah.
It's
yeah,
so
it was-
stressful.
It was nerve-wracking leading all the way up to it because it's I've never been in a recording studio before. These are people that do this for a living. Here I am writing my, first song ever, and I'm thinking I'm on cloud nine, and everybody else is like, oh yeah. But but it's really hard to get it out there and decide to continue to write. So I've got 4 or 5 other songs in the works.
You
So
should.
the hope is that by the end of next year, I'll have an EP or something.
I was going to say, you'll be dropping your LP by December. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. But they take a little bit longer to work out, especially because I don't play guitar. So when I wrote, all the songs I've written so far are just by what's in my head. I'm not playing along with any instruments.
Wow.
That's real cool. Well, I'm proud of you, Andrea. That's so cool that you've been listening to us forever and you recorded this. You fulfilling a lifelong dream, a bucket list goal. You did it, and you might do more. So please keep us up to date.
I'll put the
Absolutely.
link to Spotify where people can get that song if they want to go help support Andrea. I'll put the link to Spotify in the show notes.
Your horse's health deserves the highest standard of quality. That's why Nutramax, the makers of Cosequin, maintain their own world-class manufacturing facilities in the United States, where they far exceed what is required of supplement companies. Nutramax works with top universities and researchers in their fields to make sure your horse has nothing but the highest quality supplements. With the mission of improving the lives of people and their horses, each product is backed by more than 80 quality checks and guaranteed to meet label claims, so you can purchase with confidence. With over 30 years behind the Cosequin name, you can rely on Cosequin products for when performance matters. Visit Cosequin.com to learn more.
Well, coming up next, as Jamie said earlier in the show, is Devin Conley of Devin Out West, horse and rider digital content producer as well. She's one of my coworkers here at Equine Network.
I'm kind of freaking out right now because Devin is on the phone and she just talked to me and it's her voice and I like watch her all the time and oh my God, I'm so excited because I'm such a big fan. So, but if some of you out there, all horse chicks know who Devin is, but if you don't, we're going to play a video real quick. And this is the video where Devin is playing the role of two horses and they're talking to each other and they've just escaped from the pasture. So take it away, video.
We did it. She left the gate open and we're free. We're free. Freedom. Feels good. Where should we go? What would you like to do? Feel good. There's a lot of grass over here. I was thinking we just go over here and just eat this grass. About that. I don't know about that. I know that's what we talk about and what we want and what we push the fence over to get to, but I don't know about that. Now that we're out here, I think we could do better. Yeah, the neighbors have some flower beds. We can mess those up pretty big time. You want to do that? I don't know about that one either. I feel like that's kind of a waste of our time. Like, I think we can think bigger. There's bigger and better things out there. What are they? Well, we could knock over all the grain bins, eat all that grain, mess around colic a little bit. I don't know. What do you think? I like that. I like that thought. No, I was thinking there's a very busy highway that direction, all asphalt, not a blade of grass in sight. And I was thinking, what if we just make a beeline for that highway? Just run out in the road. Just run out in the middle of the road. Just see what happens. Just ignore all this green grass, the fields of green grass. Head to the highway. The highway calls. What? That makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. Let's go.
Yay, Devin! Thank you for joining us.
Oh, so happy to be here. That's it's hard to listen to your own voice though. Play back at you.
Oh, don't I know it? I was wondering if you were going to cringe listening to that, but yeah, I can't listen to this podcast. So this is the only time we'll ever hear this. Is for me is just one time.
I feel you. Yeah.
So you make all this content about horses. Obviously, you are a tried and true horse girl because some of the stuff you come up with, only a 1,000,000% horse girl would understand all of this. So I think a couple times you've mentioned you live in Wyoming. Is that where in Wyoming are you?
Oh, kind of southeast Wyoming. I'm originally from Colorado and have kind of lived, a few different places. But Wyoming's always felt like
she's
home,
lived in the two most beautiful states in the country. That's what I heard.
Yes, but then you got to deal with winter.
I was going to say you've lived in two of the coldest places in the country. That's incredible. I love the video you did about Glenn. She talks about, she's like, I would like to complain about the heat, but I'm not going to because where did you say, like Glenn lives in Florida. So what would you describe in that video? You described one typical place that people that live in hot climates live. Do you remember?
Oh, like living in a volcano?
Yes, Glenn, you live inside a volcano.
Feels like that today too.
Right, I bet.
So you are on the snowy tundra. Glenn lives in a volcano. So yeah, you can't complain about, I complain about heat. I'm in Oklahoma and he's like, oh really? Cause it was like 40 degrees hotter here today. Yeah. I get it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got the humidity a little bit though.
Yeah. Everybody has their thing. We have tornadoes. It's fine. Whatever. So what is your horse story? What's your horse background?
Oh, well, I grew up in rodeo. My dad was a team roper, kind of roped professionally. And so kind of earliest memories are, like arena lights, watching Dad rope. And then he started putting us in like junior rodeo, high school rodeo, college. And then from there, I showed ranch horses for a while. I grew up like running barrels and doing breakaway. And now I've got just a couple really, really nice, solid, like true ranch horses. And I just really enjoy the ranch work, the brandings, the ranch rodeos. That's kind of where I'm at and loving it.
I just went to my first ranch rodeo last week. It was unreal. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, and so some of it was kind of tough, but some of it was hilarious. Watching cowboys try to push a cow into a trailer was pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. But I'd never been to one of those. But yeah, so watching these videos, like, you're very good at your facial. I mean, I've always wondered if you were trained in acting or something.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I taught middle school for a very
that'll do it.
Yep. So that explains anything. Yeah. I was a 7th and 8th grade history teacher for 9 years and loved it. And those kids, middle schoolers are awesome. They're, there's kind of like little odd critters, and you spend a lot of the day just making facial expressions of like, what did you say? Like, what did you doing? Like, don't eat that eraser, like, so I feel like I developed a lot of my expressions in the classroom.
So the content, I mean, obviously we have to produce, we've done over 3,000 episodes of this show. So content for me is you're living your life and you're like, oh, mental note, I should probably do something about that. Is that kind of how you do it? Or do people send you ideas?
Yeah, it's all very off the cuff. I'm probably not like I don't own a ring light or anything like that. I'm probably not a very good like social media person. I'll just see I'm doing something, or I'll get this idea in my head, and I do everything just in like one take, usually unscripted, improv, and it's just. Yeah, it's just like real life, like we're all living the same lives.
Okay, wait a minute. She just said she's not very good at social media, Jamie, right? Didn't she just say that?
Yeah.
She has 400,000 followers on TikTok with 3.8 million likes. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, we're doing all right.
Well, it's true though. Like, I love that you just basically set the camera in front of yourself. And Glenn, one of the ones recently was she was driving out the driveway, and she's like, "Cool, I'm just gonna run and check on the horses real quick. Wait, hold on. Are you limping? Wait, you're not limping." I was like, I identify with that because I have to drive past my horses when I go out the driveway, and I'm like, hold on, what are you doing? Did you roll? Are you shaking, or did you not shake? What's going on? Like
that one we played of the horses getting loose. I died laughing because Jamie and I, how many horses have we covered running down highways? And you're absolutely right. There's grass right there, and they thought it was fun to try and kill themselves on the highway. It just made so much sense. When you came up with that last, I watched that whole video, and when you did that last, I was like, yep, she knows. She's got it.
And that's the fun part is like, I'm actually kind of a bit of an introvert, so social media is like a little hard for me sometimes. But the community
says the girl with 400,000 followers on TikTok.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The community of people that are on there are just the best, and like everybody's like, "Yep, this happened to me last week." Like the stories they tell, the comments always deliver.
Absolutely. Now, it's funny. I was watching you, and I'd seen enough of your videos, and finally, I was like, "Why has she not been on our podcast?" So I messaged our producer, and I'm like, "Get this girl on the show. Find her." I sent videos. I sent your links. I sent you about all the things. I'm like, "Find her and put her on the show." And she wrote me back 5 seconds later, and she's like, "She works for our company. You know that, right?" I was like, "What?" So what do you do for Horse Network?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I work for Horse and Rider magazine. And I love it. It's fantastic. It's me and my boss, and we just, we do all the things over here at Horse and Rider. I'm kind of the digital content producer, so write a lot of articles for the website and kind of run our social media. And my boss is the head editor of the magazine, so get to do some fun print stuff. And it's a pretty awesome job, and I'm very grateful for it.
Well, here I was sending Ashley I was like, you have to find her. She's somewhere in Wyoming. Get her.
Just hide now.
Now, in Jamie's defense, there are 200 some employees now for Equine Network, so it's like there's a lot of us. So.
Well, I'm so excited. I feel like I already feel like we're best friends because all the things you do, I'm like, oh my God, she's been to my house. She's staring at me. She's watching me. She knows Zeus, like you just nail, and you nail me. Like every time I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Like that's exactly what I do.
Well, one, you're not an idiot, but like two, we're all just living the same lives, right?
Yep. No matter where in the world you are, what you're doing, we're all living the same lives because horses at some point they've got to stop trying to kill themselves. They've got to run out of ways to try to stop killing themselves. They
don't seem to, though. We've been doing this show for 14 years, and we still cover ways they've tried to kill themselves, and we go, really?
Yeah, they're creative little suckers.
Well, Devin, if anybody on here, because all the people that listen to this are horse people, so they all probably follow you already, but if they don't, tell everybody where to find you.
Oh, shoot. Well, I appreciate that. My handles on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram are Devin Out West. And, we're just out here living out west and trying to keep horses alive.
And it's Devin, Devin. So it's Devin, Devin Out West. Devin, thanks for joining us. I know you have a meeting to get to because for some reason the Equine Network insists you actually do work. So
technically you should clock in for this. Okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks, Devin. Talk to you soon.